Hello, my name is Rebecca Richardson, but most people call me Becky, and today I'm going to be doing the Booktube Newbie Tag. So, as you might already know, I've done the AuthorTube Newbie Tag before, and I've touched on how I class this channel kind of as a hybrid of the two, and I didn't even realise that the Booktube Newbie Tag existed, to be honest. I hadn't seen it around, and then it kind of caught my eye a few days ago, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll do that one as well. I have seen a few different versions of the Booktube Newbie Tag, so I'm just going to do the one that I've seen people more recently do. Because I've seen there was this one, then there was a 2.0, and there was another one, and I was like, I'll just do the one that I've seen people recently doing. I'll put the questions for this in the description, so if you're a Booktube newbie, you can also take part, and yeah, I think we'll just crack on. So question 1, why did you start this channel? I started this channel just because I wanted a place to be able to talk about the things I enjoy doing. I have a few friends in real life who are into reading and writing, but not many. And not really as enthusiastically as me. It's something that I talk about all the time. There's 3 subjects I can actually hold a conversation on, and reading and writing is one of them. So I thought starting this channel would be a good way to do that and discuss things. It's also a way for me to build my confidence, as I talked about in a previous video. It's helping me build up my confidence, not just in front of the camera, but in general. I'm sort of learning how to speak properly, which is interesting. You might have noticed that I kind of struggle with my grammar a lot when I speak aloud, and I stumble over my words a lot, so I have to do a lot of editing to make me sound less illiterate, but I'm working with it. This channel is also a way for me to document the process with my writing. I'm starting a new writing project in November for NaNoWriMo, and I want to be able to document the process of that so I can see it from beginning all the way through to the end in however many years' time. I just thought it'd be something cute to do. That was kind of what originally started the idea of this channel, and then the more I thought about it, the more I decided that this is just something I want to do. Question 2, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? So I do want to do a few more creative videos later down the line. Again, I mentioned in another video that I find when you first start a channel, it's difficult to do new original content because people don't particularly care, nobody's watching you at that point, and I think everybody starting a channel really does feel they have to do sort of the general thing that everybody's doing and the things that they know will get views to start off with before they start just vlogging their life and that kind of thing, because you need to build that following before people care about the more individual videos you do. So later down the line, I do want to do more creative videos. I have a few fun ideas, but also just reviews and things, which I know everybody does, but I think everybody has different opinions, so no matter whose you watch, it's still unique because it's that person's unique opinion and their take on it. So yeah, my plan is to do some sort of traditional booktube content like reviews and reading vlogs and the rest of it, but also some more fun creative things at some point, hopefully. Question 3, what are you most excited about for this channel? I'm really excited to meet people and kind of make friends with the community and meet people who are into the same sort of things as me. I touched on this in my AuthorTube Newbie Tag video, the kind of want to be involved in the community more. I love watching booktube videos and I love seeing all of the different range of people we have and all the different opinions, and it just always looks so fun, and that's the main aspect that I'm looking forward to, sort of the fun of it and the fun of meeting people and being able to share my opinions with people and just discuss all things bookish. Question 4, why do you love reading? I went through a period in my life where I didn't really read much at all. I read a lot when I was little, and then probably from the ages of about 12 to 14ish, I read nothing. Basically, I read maybe the odd series every now and then, maybe 3 books a year if I was lucky. And only recently I've got back into it, and I'm so glad I've got back into it because it was always something that I missed. And now I'm finally back in the swing of things a bit more, and I'm reading more. Still not as much as I'd like to, but more. It's a start. I'm kind of discovering again all the things that I originally liked about reading. And I think the big one of those is definitely the escape from reality. I read to get away from the real world, which is why I'm basically just read fantasy, because I don't like real world problems. I don't want to have to deal with real world problems. So when I read, I want dragons and fairies and all of this stuff that in no way exists in real life, so I can just kind of shut off the actual world that's taking place in front of me and just disappear into this fantastical world that's just so completely different. And that is what I love about reading. It's just being able to escape from everything that's going on and responsibilities and the rest of it and disappear into a land of fairies. It's calming. and it just helps. Another thing I really love about reading is the memes that come when you finish a series. One of my favourite bits of reading is when I finish the series and I'm like, I can go on the tag, I can go on the Twitter tag or the Tumblr tag, and I can see all the memes about these characters, especially if I've seen these characters' names like around before and I've never really understood the jokes, and now I'm like, now I understand the jokes, and it's just like my favourite bit. It kind of had the same vibe as when I finished my GCSEs last year, and after every exam everybody would come out of the hall and be like, gotta check the Twitter memes. It's like that same vibe, and it's my favourite bit. Sometimes even if I'm like struggling with a book, I'll be like, you've got to finish it, because if you finish it, memes. And it just, I don't know whether that's a really like Gen Z thing to say, but yeah, that's another bit that I really like. But I suppose that's also a community element, so that makes it sound better. Question 5. What book or series got you into reading? When I was younger, I mainly read like kids like animal books and fairy books and things. But I'd say the series that really got me into reading like proper novels was the Pegasus series by Kate O'Hearn. So I read that when I was about 11, I think. I was given the first book during like a book swap library thing we were doing as part of like the school thing. And I was a bit like funny about it at first because I only read like kids' books. I'm very funny with change, and books is a massive part of that. I don't like changing what I read. And so I was really iffy about it at first, but once I started reading it, I was like, this is amazing. I want to read more of this. And I'd say that was the first series that made me kind of realise there was this world of fantasy books out there, even if Pegasus is more of like a middle grade series, I believe. The main character is 13, I think, in the first book. But it kind of opened it up to all of these other things and made me realise what there was out there to read. And it wasn't all just like adult boring stuff as I originally thought it would be. And yeah, I'd say that series was what originally started the ball for me rolling with reading. The series that got me into YA specifically, though, was Twilight, which I think a lot of people say, but it was great. When I was 13, I think, when I first picked up Twilight, my mum had read some of the books, I think, and watched all the movies, and she was like, oh, you should try this. And I absolutely adored them. I read them all in about a week. Twilight was the first, like, YA series, and I've been reading YA fantasy ever since, so I suppose I can blame Twilight for that. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favourite booktubers? I think I'd ask about professionalism within the community and how to come across as mature and confident, because there is a lot more to booktube, I've found, than just speaking to a camera. I know a lot of like the big channels do a lot with publishers and all that side of things, and that's something I would really be interested in getting into in the future, because I want to be a writer, and there's nothing you can have better, I suppose, than a network of people already, and who that kind of thing. And I think being more involved in that side of things would just be really interesting and very intriguing, but of course it takes someone who's incredibly professional to do that sort of thing. So further down the line, that would definitely be a question I'd have, is just how to write emails, approach people in a professional way, interviews, those sort of things, like how much confidence it takes and the ability just to sit and look someone in the eye and just have a mature conversation with them, which sounds like something I should be able to do, but I think when it's a transactional conversation or relationship, you do need that level of professionalism that I would really like to be able to learn. But a less serious question I'd ask is probably what it was like to be involved in the community when the Mortal Instruments was such a big thing, because a lot of the booktubers I watch have been around a while and were around when the Mortal Instruments first kind of blew up, and I wasn't even reading them then. I could have, because my friend read them, but I took one look at the original cover of City of Bones, which is literally just like half of Jace's six-pack, and was like, no, that doesn't look like my kind of thing. I just straight up judged it by its cover, which I still do, and I shouldn't do it, and I was like, not for me, thank you. And it wasn't till I was like 14, I think, that I actually read them, so I kind of missed that initial thing when then the movie came out. I missed all of that, and I look back on it now and I kind of wish I had read them when I was younger for that big boom of interest that the series got. So yeah, that's kind of the less serious question I'd ask, is just what that was originally like. Question 7. What challenges starting a booktube channel do you think will be the hardest to overcome? So as I've mentioned several times now, confidence, I think, for me will be one of the biggest challenges. I do feel better talking to a camera now, but I'm still not perfect in front of a camera. I find I don't breathe. I don't breathe when I'm on camera. I have to pause and be like to actually breathe, because I don't breathe when I'm talking to the camera, and my voice is very different. My friend pointed out that I sound quite posh, which I do on camera. So I think confidence is definitely a big thing for me. And also just reading more. That's another reason I started the channel. I wanted to be able to motivate myself to read more, because watching Booktube has recently motivated me to read a lot more than I originally was, and it's been great so far. But I think picking up how much I read will definitely be the big thing for me. At the moment, I get maybe a book a month if I'm lucky, unless I really enjoy it, then maybe it's like 2 books a month. And that's just because either I don't have time or I'm not motivated, and I'm a really slow reader anyway because I have to like reread passages. That's just like the motivation that I get from doing this will hopefully kind of push me to read more so I can talk about more books and obviously, you know, have content and things. But that will definitely be a challenge at first, is just building that store of books, I guess, that I'm reading, just getting it somewhere that it isn't at the moment. Question 8, when did you start reading? So I suppose it depends on what that means as such. If you meant like when I learnt to read, you know, very long time ago. But in terms of actual novels, probably when I was about 11, which was when I picked up Pegasus. Before that, I did read a lot of like kids' books. I read specifically the Rainbow Magic series and Beast Quest were sort of the 2 series I read a lot of. And I probably read them when I was about, I don't know, 8, 9-ish. So around that time. Question 9, where do you read? So I actually read in the same place I write, which is where the camera is sat now. My bed is actually above us because this room's quite small. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll actually be able to see the beams above my head of the bottom of my bed. So I can't really sit up there because it's far too close to the ceiling to sit comfortably. And I can't really lie down reading because it either hurts my shoulders, my stomach, or my back. So I read at my desk, not necessarily in a less painful position, to be fair. I like hunch over a lot, or I kind of swing my legs up onto the windowsill, which is like very close. But yeah, that's where most of my reading takes place. And finally, question 10, what kind of books do you read? As I've mentioned, I read YA fantasy. That's it. Mainly because I struggle a lot with change and how that's sort of developed as a concept over time has been quite interesting. It started with I couldn't read anything outside of a specific series because, you know, characters being different was far too much change. Then it kind of changed to the author. I couldn't read outside of a specific author, so I read only Cassandra Clare books for about 3 years because going into a completely different writing style and different characters and a different plot line and all the rest of it was just far too stressful and I couldn't deal with that. Now, however, I can read outside of Cassandra Clare. I started reading other authors about halfway through last year when I started Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, and now I frequently read from other people, but now it's a case of I can't read outside of YA fantasy. So the issue is still there with the not being able to deal with change thing. It's just now that it's change outside of a specific genre rather than a specific series or author. So yeah, YA fantasy is literally the only thing I actually read. I've tried to read contemporary books before, but I've just never really liked them. I don't know if it's because other reasons I read fantasy is because, as I mentioned before, dragons and things are very separate from reality, and contemporary books are still very much focused in reality. And I'm quite like harsh with my books, you know, like there's been a few I've started reading that have just been about like everyday issues and teenagers going to school and things, and I just don't care. I just could not care about what people are doing in their everyday lives. You know, I want someone who's like chopping the heads off a dragon, you know, something that I don't see every day. So I think that's partly as well why I only read YA fantasy. I can't explain the YA bit, that's entirely just my own thing. But yeah, maybe that's why I stick mainly to fantasy. But you know, I am up to trying different things. I keep meaning to read a John Green book. I tried to read The Fault in Our Stars and I didn't like it. Movie was good though. But you know, I am up to trying to read something that isn't YA fantasy. Just every time I've tried it hasn't gone well. And so at some point I might, but for now I'm quite happy just sticking to fantasy. So that's all the questions. I hope this has allowed you to get to know me a little bit better. If you want to comment with your own answers to any of these questions, please leave them below. I will be putting the questions in the description. And yeah, that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!